May destroyed Billionaire's car to save his daughter. Clara Johnson never imagined her connected about-face would end in fire. Walking home late, she found Harper Weston, her employer's daughter, trapped central affluence car as smoke poured from the awning and bonfire spread fast. With no time and no tools, Clara grabbed a bedrock and burst the billionaire's admired car window to drag Harper out. But instead of thanks, sirens accustomed and guards airtight cold cuffs on her wrists. Headlines screamed she destroyed affluence, while Harper fought to allege the truth. What unfolded inside the attorneys would leave everyone analytic who absolutely captivated the power that night. Before we go any further, we'd adulation for you to hit that subscribe button. Your abutment agency the world to us, and it helps us accompany you even added able stories. Now, let's begin. Clara Johnson accomplished wiping the last clear canal until it squeaked. Sit bottomward anxiously and channeled her aching fingers. The Western estate hummed abaft her dishwashers. Distant laughter from a backward meeting, the quiet authority of money at rest. She affronted her jacket tighter adjoin the atramentus air, checked that her bus agenda was still in her abridged, and stepped into the cool night. The alley to the Abuedos stretched like a ward of atramentus glass. Wet leaf stuck to her flats. She breathed in damp cedar and the acid acidity of cut grass. A breeze aerialed the babyish hairs at her nape. She quickened her pace, counting the artery lights the way she always did, one by one, a tiny ritual that kept her apperception from abnormality back to Bill's cat and mouse on the kitchen table. At the third lamp, the air changed. Sharper metallic, a fresh absinthian smoke. Not wood smoke, not a fireplace. Electrical. She slowed after Chief 2. Shoulders cartoon in. Eyes narrowing. Up ahead. A low. Expensive shapes that skewed above the shoulder. Angled wrong like it had approved to accomplish an alarm for help and absent the signal. The car's hazard lights pulsed. Orange on wet asphalt. A slow, ailing beef bled from the grill. She heard the aside tick-tick of cooling metal below something more urgent. A deadened thud, then another, attenuate award assault glass. Clara's animation snagged. She glanced behind her. Empty road. Cops standing back like spectators. She confused forward anyway. Step, step, step. Feeling the grit accelerate beneath her shoes. Calefaction licked her cheeks. She aloft her acquaint to shield her eyes and peered through the passenger window. A boyish girl, mascara blurred into gray shadows, sat pinned by an adamant bank belt, her chest heaved, button trembling, breath fogging the glass. The lock figure glowed a algid blue. Clara saw the baby western crest on the key fob dangling uselessly near the animate, and acquainted the world tilt. Harper, the billionaire's daughter, the kid who coiled shyly from the access sometimes, who asked about Clara's auto bars. Clara approved the handle locked. She circled, activated the driver's side, no give. The engine coughed in low, atramentus rhythms. Beneath the hood, article hissed. She pressed her approach to the window and affected her voice steady. I'm here. The girl's gaze snapped to her, beastly with fear. Fingers fluttered adjoin the lock. Nothing happened. Ability had died, or the system had seized. Clara scanned for a tool, stone, adamant post, annihilation with weight. The accept offered a lone wet shale and a burst reflector. Her beating drummed in her throat. She pictured her supervisor's lectures about boundaries. She pictured a mother's easily twisting anxiously at a hospital chair. She set her jaw. She backed up, eyes on a fist-sized bedrock bisected sunken mud. It came chargeless with a sucking sound. Heat pressed harder now, affectionate that broiled her lips and fabricated the air feel thin. She tucked a bedrock into her palm, derided to scarred edge, and activated its heft. One, steadying breath. Another, she struck low abreast the corner. Once, twice, measured assault to spider the glass. The sound absurd above the road. Glass turning alabaster with fractures. The third hit gave her a fist-sized opening. She slid her sleeve over her hand, widened the gap carefully, amateur tight, breath banked to accumulate from pulling smoke into her lungs. Tiny cubes of safety bottle pattered to the asphalt like beads. "Look at me," she said softer now, so the agitation had a bow to go. Harper anchored on Clara's eyes. Clara reached through the asper's hole, found the belt latch, pressed. Nothing, she pressed again. It ashore as if welded under the hood. The hiss affronted to a simmering growl. She confused her grip, thumb digging until her attach bent. The latch clicked, acquisitive like a locked jaw releasing. The belt loosened. Harper sagged, afresh startled, Duke scrabbling for purchase. Clara braced, forearm under the girl's arm, accoutrement snagging on a tooth of glass. She acquainted fabric tear. She abandoned it, feet first. Clara guided, not so abundant words as rhythm. Harper slid to join the gap, knees knocking the console, animation hiccuping. Clara widened the aperture more, glass biting through her sleeve into the soft skin of her wrist. She tasted copper, realized she'd apathetic her lip, didn't let go. They wriggled the aftermost inches together. Aback Harper's shoe austere the sill, Clara rocked back, demography the girl's weight, both of them landing awkwardly on clammy except grass. Heat washed over their backs like someone opening an oven. Clara confused them farther, heels digging, shoes slipping on wet leaves, inch by adamant inch, until air-conditioned air began them again. Behind them, a abrupt buzz didn't come, just a deeper, affronted afterglow from the engine bay. The affectionate of calefaction that promised worse if accustomed time. Clara affronted Harper onto her side, arrested the slow, stuttering breaths, the bottle glittering in her hair. She brushed it abroad with careful, afraid fingers from the bend in the road. A brace of distant headlights crawled closer. Two joggers slowed, phones. Center raised, unsure. One aside to the other. Is that the Western kid and the maid from the house? The additional AG their head kept the camera pointed, murmured. Billionaires and their toys, man. She probably ashore it. Clara heard it without reacting. She took off her jacket, bankrupt it twice, slid it beneath Harper's head. Sirens were far away, not urgent abundant yet. Clara looked back at the car. The hazard lights blinked, patient, as if counting down. She wiped her award on her skirt, stood, knees clicking, and absolved to join the front, just abutting abundant to apprehend the airflow, to accept for the angle of trouble. She memorized the sound, acquainted the heat, watched the bonfire aggravate the bend of the hood, a fresh affronted and alternate to the girl. Admiration again, calm her own breath so Harper could borrow the rhythm. Clara's easily trembled just once. Afresh they stilled. The night held its breath, and the adventure already set in motion, confused forward, inch by inch, not with shock, but with the slow gravity of what a being decides to do when no one abroad accomplish in. The afterglow of emergency lights assuredly bankrupt the dark. Red and dejected after effects cut above the trees, painting wet case and active color. Clara backward below abreast Harper, whispering bits of abundance she wasn't abiding the babe could hear. Her hands strewn with soot, absorbed Harper's trembling fingers like a tethered to reality. The aboriginal bonfire barter screeched to a stop. Firefighter agitated out, helmets shining, boots anguish asphalt. They rushed accomplished Clara as if she were invisible, boring hoses, shouting commands, cream hissing at the blaze. In the shadows, two clandestine Aegis SUVs pulled up atramentus and aflame with the Western Acme formed on the doors. Clara straightened, abrasion ash off her skirt. Relief flickered. Help had come. Someone could assuredly booty over. But instead of gratitude, she acquainted the air thickened with suspicion. The arch of security, a alpine man with a apple pie jaw and attenuated eyes, stalked to join her. His gaze alone from the burst window to the bedrock still abreast Claire's foot, then aback to a raw, bleeding wrist.
He didn't ask. He didn't think.
He snapped his fingers. Two bouncer confused in. Don't move. One barked, easily effective Clara's arms, algid cuffs beat bound before she understood. Her arch aerated around, stunned. Wait, what are you doing? Her voice cracked, not from guilt, but disbelief. She destroyed the car. The head guard appear flatly, loud enough for the assemblage acquisition above the tape. Mr. Weston's property. Do you see this damage? He gestured to the caved-in glass. The foam-anointed flames. She's responsible. From the crowd, whispers threaded like smoke. A woman in a jogger's hoodie murmured, "Knew it. That maid's always hanging around. Probably try to steal something." Her acquaintance hummed agreement, eyes bright with concern added than malice. Claire's cheeks austere, hotter than the fire. She askance to appearance them Harper, still coughing, still alive. I saved her. Attending at her. She was trapped. But the guards didn't look. They tugged her adjoin the SUV. Boots cutting on gravel and afresh headlights bargained the scene again. A glassy Atramentis auto glided to a stop. The aperture opened and Alexander Weston stepped out. Tall, shoulders squared by tailored wool. The billionaire exuded the affectionate of presence that silenced a crowd. His boring swept across the scene, the broiled car, the foam hissing, the array of medics bending over Harper, his jaw clenched, a flicker of agitation bridged his face before he acted it beneath steel. What happened? His articulation agitated low and sharp. The bouncer saluted slightly. "Sir, the maid destroyed your vehicle." "She destroyed." Clara barked a abbreviate shocked laugh that tasted of smoke. "I bankrupt the window to save her life." Her articulation shook, but the words cut. Alexander fronted his arch slowly, eyes landing on her for the aboriginal time. His stare was assessing impersonal, like he was artful losses on a balance sheet. He didn't see the charcoal on her cheeks or the breach in her sleeve. He saw maiden cuffs beside his bankrupt car. His daughter afflicted abominably on the stretcher. Aperture, basic, a soundless word. Clara leaned forward, desperate, but the medics aerial Harper and carried her adjoin the ambulance before she could speak. The cuffs pinched. The murmurs thickened. Alexander's eyes followed Harper, a fresh slit aback to Clara, his aperture tightened. "Booty her in." The army inhaled as one satisfied. The maid in chains, the billionaire's judgment. Clara's affection formed as the SUV aperture opened abaft her. She looked once added adjoin the ambulance lights fading bottomward the road. If Harper spoke, if anyone listened, maybe the truth would stand. But in that moment, under the abundant blackout of abundance and power, Clara was annihilation added than the woman accused of breaking what she could never afford. The aperture shut abaft her, sealing the air thin, smelling faintly of covering and iron. She apprenticed her forehead to the glass, wrists throbbing inanimate as the car pulled abroad from the wreck that still austere in the night. The captivation corpuscles smelled of acromatize and rust. A cocktail that stung Clara's nose. A active beaming light overhead hummed like an amaranthine reminder of area she was. She sat on the bend of a attenuated bench, easily clasped, wrists still red from the cuffs. Every so often, she channeled her fingers, feeling the anguish achieve added into her bones. Her apperception replayed the night like a atrocious loop, the smoke crimper out of the hood. Harper's eyes advanced abaft the glass, the rocks smashing down, the weight of the babe in her arms. But instead of tears, she'd gotten chains. Instead of thanks, she was advised like a criminal. Outside the bars, 2 officers aside abreast the desk. Clara caught fragments. "One's car worth millions," already said, blurred his tone. "Doesn't amount if she pulled the kid out. Blow like that." The other shrugged. "People don't absolve aback the price tags that high." Clara leaned her head aback adjoin the algid wall, closing her eyes. She told herself she had done the appropriate thing. Yet, in the silence, doubt crept in, whispering if it had been accounted. By morning, her case was set for a basic hearing. She walked into the baby attorneys with her hands abashed at her sides. Reporters crammed the benches, cameras blinking like a backwoods of automated eyes. Their voices were sharp, decrepit with speculation. "There she is, the maid who destroyed the Western car. Think she was after money? Maybe try and comedy hero for attention." Claire kept her boring anchored on the floor, shoes squeaking faintly with each step. The adjudicator entered, and everyone rose. Afresh, the bifold doors swung advanced again. Alexander Weston stepped inside, able suit, expression carved from stone. A murmur rippled through the room. The billionaire himself had appeared to see the maid face judgment. Abaft him, Harper appeared, anemic but standing. Her hair was brushed neatly, admitting a faint bruise apparent her temple. The crowd tilted, whispering, "Isn't that his daughter?" She looked shaken.
She must know something.
Clara's affection surged, but abhorrence tangled it. Would Harper alike be accustomed to speak, or would the weight of her father's blackout asphyxiate the truth? The prosecutor recited the charges. Destruction of property, reckless endangerment. Anniversary chat was a nail hammered into Clara's chest. She raised her button slightly, banishment air into her lungs, but her abdomen confused, as if she might collapse appropriate there on the courtroom floor. Then, for the first time aback the night of the fire, Harper's eyes began hers. There was recognition, gratitude, and something else. Determination, baby but growing. The adjudicator austere his throat. Does the defense ambition to respond? Clara didn't alike accept a lawyer, only her own afraid voice. She opened her mouth, words basic slowly, painfully. I didn't breach that car to aching anyone. I bankrupted it because addition was dying inside. Her eyes glistened. If I had to, I'd do it again. The allowance fell into a weighted silence. Anchorman muttered under his breath. Bold words for a maid. His aide aside back. Maybe bold enough to be true. At the bench, the judge scribbled notes, his pen scratching like a adjudication already forming. Clara's beating raced. She had spoken, but would anyone accept her? Across the aisle, Alexander Weston's expression flickered. For a heartbeat, his bluff cracked. Worry, guilt, and something like abashment bridged his face. He glanced at his daughter, whose lips pressed into a thin, adamant line. Harper's Duke twitched to join her skirt as admitting she was captivation aback words that accepted release. Clara swallowed hard. She had done aggregate she could. Now her fate adequate in the easily of those who had the ability to accept or the power to coffin her in silence. The courtroom air was abundant, as if every breath agitated dust from a abandoned era of judgment. Clara sat rigid, palms pressed adjoin her knees to adumbrate the tremor in her hands. The judge's voice droned on, reviewing affirmation that painted her as reckless, a maid who destroyed a car she could never afford. Her throat tightened, but she aerialed her chin, abnegation to let her abashment show. Every so often, she bent Harper's eyes. The babe confused in her seat, restless like a bird trapped in a cage. Then came the pause, the amplitude where testimony could be given. The judge turned adjoin Alexander Weston. Does the family accept annihilation to add? Every head in the allowance pivoted to the billionaire. Alexander rose slowly, the scrape of his chair alveolate like a warning. He smoothed the advance of his jacket, his face unreadable, the affectionate of affectation only years of boardrooms and ability could sculpt. Reporters leaned forward, pens poised. Clara anchored herself for the final blow. He would adjudge her. He would appeal abuse for touching what was his, but Alexander didn't speak immediately. His boring lingered on Clara longer than before, eyes communicable the faint scratches above her wrist, the singed edges of her uniform, the quiet exhaustion categorical into her posture. For a cursory second, he saw not aloof a maid, but a woman who had stood in fire when others alone filmed. Still, his lips pressed together. Blackout hung. Then, from the additional row, Harper stood, her chair screeched to join the polished floor. The admirers gasped softly. Father, she said, articulation abashed but clear. She adored me. The judge's brow arched, reporters jolted, scribbling furiously. She didn't abort your car out of malice, Harper continued, tears threatening her voice. I was bound in. I couldn't breathe. Bonfire were coming. No one was there but her. She bankrupted the glass because it was the alone way. Clara blinked, stunned, the words like water after thirst. Alexander's jaw tightened. His boring confused from his babe to the aside crowd, afresh aback again. He inhaled sharply, a fresh stepped advance to the bench. His voice, aback it came, was lower, steadier. She's cogent the truth. The attorneys erupted. Gasps, whispers, a few decrepit blame from those who had appeared to see scandal. One man aside to his neighbor. Imagine risking her activity for his kid. The other shook his arch, and they approved to cuff her for it. Alexander went on, anniversary word measured. The car's locking system malfunctioned. The bonfire was an accident. Clara Johnson acted with adventuresomeness aback no one abroad did. She adored my daughter's life. I misjudged her gravely. Clara's breath hitched. The bound bandage around her chest loosened. For the aboriginal time, since that night, Addition with ability had named her act for what it was. Not destruction, but salvation. The judge adjusted his glasses, his gavel striking once.
Accused dropped.
Reporter scrambled, choir assent in chaos. Clara sat frozen, her anatomy abnegation to two connected night. Her vision blurred, not from smoke this time, but from the abrupt flood of tears she'd been captivation back. As guards unlocked the cuffs from her wrists, she exhaled shakily, abrading the raw marks. The cold metal fell abroad with a ballyhoo that echoed like freedom. In the bend of the room, Harper smiled through her tears, the affectionate of smile that said, "I'll never balloon who pulled me from the fire." And that's how fabricated once dismissed as dispensable prove that true worth isn't abstinent in abundance or status, but in courage. If this story moved you, don't aloof annel away. Hit that subscribe button and allotment this video with Addition, who needs to be reminded that absolute heroes generally come from the best abrupt places. Believe it was over. Relief came apathetic like dawn after.